Hi, today I have a talk called You Are the Inventor, and the first statement is turmoil can only be on a surface, which means it is not real. We're used to thinking of our experience as so big, but really the biggest thing is what we all are, and the experience we're having and the thoughts we're thinking and accepting to make that experience are just the tiniest layer on top of what is real. So the most influential, the most hugest thing is what we are. So when we're making a big deal out of our experience and any attempt to analyze and judge it, we can think of what is real. It's what we are. If you think of if you think of a big globe, and the entire interior is what is real. It's what we are. It's peace, it's light, it's love. And then on the surface of this globe is the thinnest layer, and that's the experience. And it's very flexible, very changeable, instantly, in ways we're not used to thinking of. And that's the experience. Based on the thoughts we believe, that's very insignificant. The most significant thing is what we all are together, what everything is behind its facade, behind its very thin costume, is the reality of everything. And we're coming into a time where we learn to put our attention primarily on what is real. We learn to gaze steadily toward what is real, and we learn a discipline to not be disturbed and to just keep that gaze on and faith in what is real. And what is real is abstract. It's not a concrete separate thing you can pick out and judge and pit against something else, compare with something else. There isn't anything else. What we've imagined is this thin experience on the surface, and that's not real. So, excuse me, our ability to learn to refocus on the real and just pause and rest there and be fully aware of this is the biggest thing, and this is benign, and this is loving, and this can be the influence in every moment, in every situation. This can be the determiner. What is real can be the determiner. Thy will be done. What is your will for me today? Let me follow it. So this is what's real. The experience is invented. And now's a time where we're counseled. We've been making a very chaotic and frightening dream. And now is a time where we're counseled and we calm down and we're embraced and we're loved and we rest. And as a result, our dream calms and our dream becomes a reflection of how much we're loved and how much we're aware that everyone is loved. Our dream begins to reflect this huge, beautiful reality back to us. This is the time where we calm down and let that happen. So the invented world of time and space can leave no mark upon what you are. The world of time and space is invented. There's something real that is not an invention. And then a thin surface on top of what is real is everything we're making up. We're making it up using thought. That would be all of time and space. And it's our toy. We've been playing with our toy. We've been causing the features and the experience of our toy. And I think the Bible says something about leaving children's toys behind. In this case, the imagery, the idea that's given to me is we give the toy to all of us, to Spirit, to Holy Spirit, and we say, use this toy to bring me back to the full awareness of myself. So if you look at that interior of the globe and you see the reality that there is only love and light, that's the only thing that's real forever. And we hand our toy of the dream, the hallucination, the illusion, over to all of us together, the harmony of us, and say, my separate self isn't going to try to mess with this. Only as it feels it's instructed. My separate self is turning this illusion, hallucination, dream toy over to you, Spirit, to bring to a happy conclusion, a happy ending to the story, a happy ending that reflects what I am, what everyone is, what everything has always been behind a very, very thin surface. So there's where our focus can be. The invented world of time and space can leave no mark upon what you are. Think of yourself as unblemished, unmarked, undamaged. That's you as spirit. And as that's you, that's everyone else. Because they're spirit too. That's the reality of us. Now we may appear to have these personalities that are blemished, dinged, damaged, scarred, and marked. And we find points in the past that we believe are real causes of real scars. Invention, illusion, hallucination, magic, toy. And it's always insulting to an ego to see it this way. But the one who reacts is your false dolly you made of yourself. Somebody who gets angry is the dolly you made of yourself, like a little voodoo doll. Somebody outside of you who seems to criticize you is the dolly you made of them, like a little finger puppet. What are they behind that? They're 100% benign eternally. That's extremely boring to an ego. An ego doesn't want to think about that. An ego wants to feel all the bumps and textures and compare itself to others and ally itself with some and put itself against others. And an ego wants that excitement and that adventure. But there's something in your soul and your being that's very tired of the toy. If a soul can even be tired, but I'm using this language to explain, we're ready to return. We're ready to drop the facade. We're ready to stop pretending. So this is a time when we stop pretending and we become willing to see what is unblemished and unscarred in this one. What is uncaused by this thing I call the past in this one, in me, even in this object, in this bookcase. What is real about this bookcase? What is real? Let's let all facets or features of fantasy drop away and let me experience what is real about everything I encounter today. The time you take to ground in this remembrance that you're done, that you're moving on, is well worth the time you spend on it. Okay, the time is now to see that you are the inventor. We can forget that so easily. Whenever you're blaming anybody else, just laugh, because this is the game we've been playing and we've been very deeply caught up in it. And also that nothing has been invented. So that's insulting to the ego to look at all these bumps and this texture and this back and forth and light and dark and all the sets of opposites in time and space that seem to have been tussling with each other for all of time, and for that to be called nothing. Well, the thin surface on top of the reality doesn't exist. It's imagined. And we're learning to rely upon what is, what actually exists, not what we have pretended is existing. Now that I've said that, we still seem to be here. We still seem to see it and feel it and hear it and experience it. And there is a use to be made of it. So this is the phase we're in right now. I still seem to be here. And there is a use to be made of this. The use to be made of this is return to the full awareness of what we are for all, without any exceptions. So when we're having a moment of turmoil or confusion, where we notice a driving ambition and a stress, a tension in that, any tension or stress is a chance to remember, oh, I can take the toy of this dream that I've been making using thoughts I believe and I can turn that over to spirit, and I can put spirit in charge. The reason I felt tension was that I was putting my separate self in charge of a fantasy. And the way to allow the fantasy to transform into something benign, and then to ultimately let it go. And part of me is saying, you're very, very brave to talk about the part, which I'm not, but just words, where we let it go. Because what ego would want to let its toy go? But there's this growing remembrance of our joy is just who we are eternally. And it's hard to represent in words. It's like an eternal singing that you would never want to let go of this joy or cover it up with anything. You'd never want to cover it up with a facade. So first we calm down. We remember who everyone is. We don't feel threatened by anyone. And we allow the nightmare facade to transform into something very benign. And then we just kind of chuckle and we put our toy down because we never needed this particular kind of distraction from what we are. So that's what we're heading toward. And I guess I tell the whole story there. That's the whole thing, because every story has an ending. But we ourselves are an ending. And that becomes primary for us. So the time is now to see that you are the inventor. And when I say you, I say me, and I say everyone. But I don't force it on anyone. Just if it resonates with you, then it's for you right now. So you are the inventor. There's only one of us. And that nothing has been invented. This awareness of who we are spreads like a very kind virus. And COVID, you could say, was a representation of our fear of this spreading, our fear of awakening spreading. And if you experienced it, it means it's your fear. It's not some other guy's fear. Any tension or stress is about the thoughts you believe. Any seeming challenge that comes from outside is about the thoughts you believe, because you made that experience with the thoughts you believe. Look next door at your neighbor. It's not the thoughts he believes. He is you. You are him. And you share one mind. You're huddled in this mind with me, and we're in office cubicles, and we are still pretending so hard that our minds are separate, but they're not. They're not. And there aren't any secret or private thoughts. There seem to be, right? Because we make the experience of this separation. There definitely seem to be. But we are the inventors. And any one of us can say that. I am the inventor of this hallucination, of this toy, of this dream, of this illusion, of this fantasy. I use a lot of words, a lot of synonyms to help it sink in from all the different angles, because I will be going back and listening to this several times at least, because this is my focus for today, and it's what I can share. So if anything in you resonates with any part of that, that's great. But you also have the way your inner teacher is blossoming through you. And you also have everyone you think of today. They're your teacher, and their inner teacher can reach you. Anyone you meet today, they're your teacher. So it's everywhere. The wholeness and the beauty of this capital S self is absolutely everywhere. Pick up an object, it's in it. So there's nowhere it isn't. It's everywhere for you, and you are so safe and held and loved by the way this teaching can emerge from everyone and everything. We're still pretty selective, and remember, we're making our experience with the thoughts we believe, but we're more willing to hear that it's everywhere now. We're more willing to allow it to blossom simultaneously out from everyone and everything. This beauty, this peace. Think of somebody you think is totally barking up the wrong tree. Pick a political person or whoever comes to mind, someone you think is so misguided. Would it hurt your ego that much for them to speak to you of something that makes total spiritual sense and for them to be right on the money? Do you want to be right about how misguided and often wrong they are? Or do you want to be happy to see evidence of their benign and loving being today? And we're very trained, I'm very trained, to want to be right because I associate stability with things being the way they have been. But how that character out there really is, they're not their character, they're a being. And the being is always benign. Do I want to allow the being to speak through the character I have imposed upon the being? That's up to me. So do I want to be right about a certain segment of this population doesn't get it, right? Doesn't understand, but I do? Or do I want to be happy that I see evidence of their benign and loving being today? I get to choose. I could have ego stability, which would indicate I know more or less about something. They can be the follower or leader, or I can understand what is in us all simultaneously and what can blossom forth from within everyone and everything simultaneously, and I can put my attention there. And whatever seems to be burping out in time and space, according to the thoughts I still believe, even if it's distant, a war in the distance, thoughts you believe, you made it. There's no guilt, there's no blame. No one else is being hurt because of you. It is a hallucination, and we can get reactive to the hallucination. But we're learning to tune into what's real and to allow the hallucination to show us that we're safe, that we're loved. If I have to be ahead of somebody by knowing more than they do, and therefore having a greater peace because I know more, that's not the same as being willing to allow the peace that is within everyone and everything to blossom. So it's a shift. It's like a small shift deeper every day that you can allow, where the realization is always along the lines of, do I want to be right about the limits I thought were real before, or do I want to be happy and rejoice and want all of us and everything, no exceptions, actually are right now? It seems to take a little effort to turn your attention back on this, because the life experience made by our thoughts, our fearful thoughts, will just reinforce these idea of limits over and over and over and over and over again. But we can take some time to focus back toward what is real. Okay, so the time is now to see that you're an inventor and nothing has been invented. Everything now being given the equal status of nothing. Okay, so everything on the crust of this globe we're imagining, okay? Every aspect of the hallucination, the illusion, the dream, the fantasy that I am making, and you can say you're making it if it resonates, is nothing, because the something is only love. So if only love exists, yet I'm using the power of love to hallucinate something that could be an opposite to love. Love having an opposite. Both the love within that fantasy, a love that could be opposed, a love that could change, and the hate within that fantasy are both fantasies. But if you're aware of the existence of this greater love, this real love, this actual love, it's not hard to throw away the nothing love and the nothing hate. The nothing love in our fantasy, illusion, dream, feature of our toy that we make with our thoughts can be easily throw it away like a tissue. You don't need that. It has been elevated and romanticized and given great status in this world. It is still like the shining jewel that is held up. You can get the love and approval of the masses. You can be famous, or you could have a special romantic partner who will value you but won't value anyone in the same way they value you. You will finally feel your value because this one person will value you. So we have these myths, and they're very sacred and they're cherished. And we don't have to give up our currently existing relationships, even if they seem to have been based upon this idol of love that we invented that's actually nothing. That's okay, because all you have to do is look deeper, 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 deeper. You don't have to throw anything away. You look deeper, and then you see, oh, in actual love, I'm united with everyone right now. In actual love, of course I'm connected by love with the one I have professed to love with ego love in the past. I could throw that away with a tissue. A love that can change or go away, no problem. Because here's actual love. That one's still actual love. I'm still actual love. We're still connected by actual love. Nothing can change that. So you don't have to throw away any of your relationships. You just deepen into, oh, there was this tissue on top of what's actually here. And now I can look at and live from what is actually here, and not have to try to maintain some facade of a character being loving. You don't have to try hard to be loving if you are love. We do have to be responsible for the thoughts we believe, because the thoughts we believe are making our fantasy. And we don't want to experience a nightmare fantasy anymore. We want to experience the fantasy that reminds us of who all of us are, and that we're safe, and that we're loved, and that all things come to a happy conclusion. That's what we want. Well, when we make pronouncements about a world and say, this one is lacking, or this one doesn't get it, or this one is dangerous, or this one's going to bring harm to us, or all the pronouncements, we're turned away from the reality of all of us, the reality of the being. Forget about the characters you've made up in your story. Look at their being. Their being can't be anything other than peace eternally. Their being can't be anything other than love eternally. And on the surface here are all our churning egos in opposition and comparison with each other. That's a tissue. Pick it up, throw it away. And bring your attention toward, there's a reality behind the surface I made. The two most important parts about that is remembering that there's a reality here. And then the other part is realizing the surface I made. I made the surface. I'm in control of the surface. And I can give the surface to who and what all of us are to handle now. Don't try to manipulate the surface from the perspective of a separate character just trying to survive. But give the entirety of what the surface is going to look like to the harmony amongst us all. That's a safe place for your hallucination to be. You give it to harmony, which is what you actually are, and you let harmony take care of it. We're not pretending that the separate character is struggling within it anymore. So everything now being given the equal status of nothing, it's all one thing. It can now be given over to Holy Spirit. And we can trust the Spirit that unites us all. We can always stop to rest and focus on it. And for a moment, we don't have any thoughts about anything in particular. All our opinions go to this place to die. When we're focusing on the Spirit we all are, and the capability of that Spirit to handle absolutely everything, and the capability of that Spirit to give everyone their instructions for what they're going to be inspired to do and say, When we rest here, then all the other details fall away. All the opinions the ego gives you about me, the ego gives me about every single thing, they're silent when I rest in this space. And of course, there are times when the opinions are just hammering in my mind. And I know that's the time, okay, let's turn around and look at these opinions and realize what they are and where they come from and set them down. And now let's focus beyond them on what is real, on what you actually are forever, on the power you are forever. Let's focus on that, and let's recognize that we've put this power in charge now. And from here we await instructions. From here, what to think will be given us. From here, what to think causes what we seem to do and say. From here, what to think causes what we believe ones we call other are doing and saying. It's all caused here. And we give the fantasy back to the whole of us to handle. So from this place of giving over each and every aspect of the world of your invention, you are ready to receive instruction. It's like the word readiness is equated with stillness and quiet, and it's circled. It's just pointed out. You can bring yourself back to this point of readiness many times every day. You just rest. To bring yourself back to readiness means you've strayed away. I stray away many times every day. But the focus on what is real still becomes stronger. And I stray away a little less. And that's enough. That's plenty. So when I feel any tension or stress or anything I'd call negative, I come back to this place of readiness. I realize I've been receiving instructions on what to think from ego. And when ego tells me what to think, that causes what I seem to do and say and feel. And that causes what others seem to do and say and feel. We're all one and we share one mind. So it's not like, but you're causing my thing, I'm causing your thing. There's only one of us, and we're all in one mind in our office cubicles that we've set up, trying to be separate. But let's stop joking. Let's stop pretending. There's one mind. We all share it. And we're hanging on to these cubicles for dear life, but they're not real. So each of us, though, from what seems to be a separate perspective, can do this work that I'm talking about. We can come back to this place of readiness. This place of readiness is where your opinions come to die. And our opinions seem so interesting. But as this place of readiness to listen to Spirit, it's like a sunrise. You know, you see a little light and a little light and a little light and a little light and a little more light, and suddenly it's not dark anymore. This is kind of how it is, this place of readiness. And every day, it's like that sun you see is just a little bit more over the horizon, and you understand why it's so important to be in this space, to stay in this space, and also to be really calm about when you notice, I have stepped away from this place. You just go back and you declare your willingness to receive instruction. And you remember that you'd rather be happy about the truth of who and what everyone and everything is behind this very, very thin facade. You'd rather be happy about that than be right about any opinion the ego has ever given you about anything, and that includes the positiver ones. So if the ego gives me opinions about this person is better than that one, and I have to set all of it down to invite the equality in, The equality is what I turn my dream over to and say, okay, you handle this now. The equality is what I am. The equality is what you are. So it becomes easier and easier to come back to this place where opinions come to die, where all is equal, all is what we actually are. It's a place of readiness. And in this place of readiness, thoughts are given to us. Those thoughts cause our perception. If you think about your words and your actions, those are only perceptions. So you perceive when you call you, speaking and acting, and then you have a memory of that. You perceive when you call other, speaking and acting, and then you have a memory of that. And the ego gives you all kinds of positive and negative opinions and reactions to all of this. Underneath the surface, all of that positive and negative reactivity is the remembrance that the peace is who all of us are. The peace, the happiness, the joy behind that facade, a facade of fear that I would project onto you, is who you are. And more, I'll allow the dream to remind me very directly of that. But while the dream still jumps all over the place, we still have this place of readiness. We still have this place to receive instruction. So here we are. And it's not hard, this work. It's very simple. It's just a reorienting and a refocusing. It's very repetitive. It's like being a clerk in an office. I always loved that type of work that was very repetitive and mindless, sort of, and like stamping books in a library. I worked in a department in my college library called bibliographic control. I don't know why they called it that. I think they called it cataloging and processing. And then when I got there, they had just renamed it. And then they called it bibliographic control. And all I did was just stamp the new books or put a label on the spine. And I got to use a sealing iron. You put tape over that label, and then you'd use a sealing iron to warm the tape up a little and seal it to the plastic cover of the book. I found this work just so soothing. I loved it. I loved it. I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's Jerry in Parks and Rec. He just loves these repetitive tasks. This is that kind of work. It's very simple. It's very repetitive. It is not sexy in any way. It's just, but it's also not disturbing. It's just very simple and repetitive, and it's there for you in your time of need. So enjoy your menial tasks because they lead to this very beautiful peace. And I'm wishing you well today. Thank you.